welcome back to Shadowboxing. My guest is Lynn McLaren. Welcome.
Thanks, Tibor. Great to be here.
Lynn, can you tell me, how does it happen? The Greens got a very strong opinion on the GM Corps, and they don't want to have that in Australia. And now in all over Australia, unfortunately, including WA, we got GM Corps. So what made you fail in that sort of fight?
Well, I guess we have not stopped fighting against GM, and we will continue to work to roll back the GM crops that have been let in by this current government. It's only that terrible fate that committed us to a Liberal coalition government this election, which lifted the gate that the Greens and the ALP had kept against GM crops for so long. So it was a policy change by the people in power. And let's face it, you know, we Greens are a voice in government at the moment, but we don't dictate what policies they actually adopt. We can guide them. We can certainly point out where they're going wrong, and we do that as often as we can. And we also point where they should go. And we've continually advocated against GM crops for so many reasons, and we have a strong support amongst the farming community too here. But again, it's corporate dollars, biotechnology dollars. They're quite strong, and they've influenced this government, and they've allowed GM crops to grow.
Something which is not that difficult probably to answer is sustainability in transport.
We see that our system up till now has been entirely overly reliant on cars. We've developed our city to be dependent on cars. Sustainable transportation is one that has a option of modes, and we would say we need to put a lot more effort and a lot more money in developing light rail systems, more heavy rail systems, a greater pedestrianization of our city, and more bike lanes, more of a bike network, so that it gets us out of our cars. In a time where fuel is going to be increasingly more expensive, the price of fuel and supply, we need to find other modes of transport. But even if you could electrify all the cars, it's still not a sustainable transport mode for a city,
so
because it needs so many roads, and roads take up valuable space where people should be, and we want to move people without having to be dependent on cars. So sustainability in transport is quite a complex formula.
Issue,
and it also includes moving more freight on rail systems, which also reduces our dependency on roads and truck transport. So I think it's a multi-faceted approach to moving people around.
But how about sustainable city?
Well, sustainable transport is one of the most important features, I guess, of a sustainable city. One of the first things I argued about when I was elected to Parliament was a thing called a transit-oriented development, which was a densification of a rural area. So it was turning a rural area into a city, into an urban zone, and putting high density there. And I said, I love the idea, I love the notion, but the only way that it's transit-oriented development is in the title of the amendment. There's nothing in it to deliver transport options. So one of the core things of developing a sustainable city is building up your city around transport nodes. And this is something that the Greens are working on diligently with the Property Council, for example, to identify where we can build up our city around accessible transport to make it a more livable city. It means we're less dependent on cars, and we're not emitting so many fumes, not so many carbon emissions. It means that people pedestrianize, that we are a healthier city, and our air is cleaner. And it means that we can get around without the huge cost of cars and parking and all the hassles you have with congestion. So
I think probably the Barnett government is working hands in hands with you, because they're just cutting off the Riverside Drive, so no transport there. just walking.
Yeah, wasn't that crazy? Wasn't that crazy? And they said it was all about creating a destination and putting people at the end of a transport line. And what we would do differently is we would put those transport links in first.
Yes.
First, put in the infrastructure so that we can get people in and out
You're talking
of
about
there.
planning.
Yeah, I'm talking about sustainable planning.
Sustainable planning.
Yeah. But anyway, there's lots of lip service to it in this
Yes.
government, but not a lot of real understanding and true commitment with their dollars to developing our city in a sustainable way. There's a lot better that can be done. I'm not entirely convinced that even the AOP can deliver that, because we need to see...
Because the money?
And
or?
we've seen before the decisions that they've made, even recently, an announcement that the problem is releasing land on the fringes. We really can't do that anymore. We have to stop, we have to build within our footprint if we want a sustainable city.
Renewable energy, sustaining life on Earth. Lots of theories on that, obviously. And the Europeans and all around the world, the people say Australia is the most luckiest country in the world because the most sunshine, the most wind sometimes, and lots of oceans with waves. However, China and Europe is far ahead in the technology front of Australia. So what's happened? Are we sleeping or how do we missing the boat?
Completely missing the boat, and it is entirely frustrating, I think, for most people.
Is no planning there?
There's a bit of ad hoc lip service yet again. If you looked at the Energy Futures paper that the government released 12 months ago, you know, it kind of identifies, yeah, maybe we could go into renewables. But what we need to see is a concentrated effort with really significant amounts of infrastructure put in. And once we've got that, we can decouple from, you know, being addicted to fossil fuels, and we can do that so easily. Perth has been identified.
Again?
No, I think we can. It's a priority, isn't it?
It is.
It's how you do your priorities. Would you rather have 580 million spent on the waterfront, or would you rather see us transition to a renewable energy economy? And I know what my answer would be, and a lot of voters who support me would say the same. We need to make that transition ASAP.
So how no one is making real planning, as you say, things happening ad hoc. It's no short-term or long-term planning. So how do we going to transfer ourselves in 50 years' time into sustainable, renewable, clean energy regime?
We do have a plan, and
Who is that?
and several people have actually made plans. There's a group called Beyond Zero, for example, which has demonstrated, they've got lots of engineers around Australia who are working on exactly how to transition the entire country to renewables. I have no
That's
doubt.
outside of the government, of course.
Yeah, well, the plans are there. All we need is a political will. But right now, it is up to us to put forward those visions and those solutions, and we'll be coming out with a renewable energy vision for Western Australia, which looks at the energy mix. So
what is
right
the mix
now,
in here?
Well, in my electorate,
Yes.
we've got that beautiful little wave energy pilot project happening near Garden Island.
Yes, it's in
wave energy does have potential, but it needs a lot more commitment. We've seen it happen around the world that they can actually deliver on wave energy. So, you know, we could actually start having, you know, plants around. The other thing is, of course, Perth has been identified as a magical place for a solar city, and we can develop much more solar technology that will take us off the coal grid. And of course, we have seen more wind power. Even this government has put it more infrastructure for wind power, and we can use a lot more of that. There's geothermal energy. Western Australia is so rich in renewable energy that all it takes is a commitment to transition out from coal.
So what's the biggest sort of weapon in the arsenal of renewable energy in WA? So which one is our biggest one? The sunshine?
I believe it is sunshine. I believe, well, having grown up in California, I saw that we transitioned quite quickly to solar power, And one of the formulas for how to get us out of the mess we're in is simply putting solar panels on all public housing. It would be much cheaper than subsidizing people for their energy bills. So we've done that calculation.
Why aren't they doing it? So what's wrong? I mean,
well, again, it's political will. First of all, you have to realize that this government and many individuals who are elected to Parliament have failed to embrace the need to transition to renewables. Well, we might feel in our circles that most people understand that. They, unfortunately, our elected members are a little bit behind. And so what we need to ensure is that everyone who's elected on March 9th understands that it's really important that we transition to renewables as soon as possible, that the economic facts stack up, that the sooner we transition, the cheaper it will be for everyone. We have to encourage people to stop worrying about little things and look at the big things.
Such as what's the little thing people worrying about? Having a new stadium in Perth, or having a nice waterfront?
I think people can be easily distracted by lots of things, Tibor. Our political strategies and our economic commitments would not be the same as this government.
Yes. As we know, Fremantle was and traditionally the gate of the West and gate of Australia. Mm-hmm. So what's happening down in Fremantle with the Fremantle Harbour? Is it stays in Fremantle, or is it go away like the Dockers will?
The Fremantle port is under a lot of pressure, and
from where?
It's under a lot of pressure from I think developers who want to have a different vision for Fremantle. But you know,
yes.
One thing that we'd like to see at Fremantle Port is better traffic management, if you will. If we could double stack our rail lines, our containers on rail, we could reduce the trucks that move through that urban area. We could have greater freight efficiencies. What we know now is a lot of trucks in and out of that harbor are empty, so they're not planning their trips so that they're going away with a full load, if they're coming in with a full load. So we can do that much better on rail. This government did a lot of work in that in the last, in the Gallup and Carpenter governments, to find ways that we could transition to rail. So one thing that we can do at Fremantle is improve the freight management, and I think that would have economic benefits, and it would also take pressure off that port, because one of the concerns that people have is increased diesel around our neighborhoods and the impact on our health, especially for young people. And in fact, the World Health Organization identified one of the worst carcinogens in diesel emissions. So we want to make sure that we reduce the amount of trucks in and out of Fremantle, but keep the working port, and we can do that by going to rail.
Thank you very much for your visit at
Thanks.
Our little studio on shadowboxing. Please come back next week for shadowboxing, same time, same channel.